So good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming in this. I'm sorry. Is it somehow possible to make it less? No. Okay. Great. So anyway, good morning and welcome to this session. It's really nice to have you this really early morning. Really heroes that make it here. So my name is Gregory Marshanov. I'm an anti-corruption lawyer, and I'm happy to introduce my colleagues. Yeli Mint from Bee House, Myanmar, Emin Hüseynov from the Institute for Reporters' Freedom and Safety, Azerbaijan, and Ilya Shumanov from Transparency International, Russia. So at this panel, we are about to discuss, as you may guess, NGOs working in exile. So you know that in the last 20 years, the freedom in the world has significantly decreased. It shows, Freedom House shows that varieties of democracy shows that every index shows that the scope of freedom, the space for freedom in the world is decreasing. But still, people try to work, civil society tries to do its job, and despite difficult conditions which are both inside or sometimes even outside of the country where we work. So I think that NGOs in exile is not the most well-known format of work, because mostly NGOs tend to work, the ones who work for local development, they work inside the country. But this becomes more and more important because, like I said, there is a shrinking space of freedom, and more countries are required this experience. So I think this panel is really important for us to discuss this experience, because maybe in this room we have people from countries which are about to fall into autocracy, and they are thinking what they should do. Should they go into exile? Should they stay in the country? So I think sharing experience is really important for that. So these are really three different countries, like I said, Myanmar, Azerbaijan, and Russia. They all have really different contexts, but there are also some things which are common. And actually this discussion is to discover what are the similarities and what are general patterns that we can use to organize our work in exile. So I want to say first that after each speaker there will be a short time for some remarks or quick questions for you, so it will not be our monologue. But in general, we will have a longer Q&A session in the end of this panel where you can say your proposals, your motions, and so on. So I would like to begin with Yelin. Yelin, I think you conduct activities like in the world's one of the most repressive civil society environments, definitely one of the most. And could you tell a little bit about, your job? And if it's so repressed, I would want to answer your question. What is the sense of your activities at all? Why do you do that? You have 50 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. And my name is Yelin. I'm from Myanmar. I'm the national coordinator of the Myanmar Alliance for Transparency and Accountability. It's called MATA. We used to work on the extractive industry, and we representing the civil society in Myanmar extractive industry transparency initiative. During this time, we work on the accountability of the private sectors and public sector in the extractive industry. And then during my time in the MATA, we are working on the anti-corruption issue as well. We formed the organization called Bee House, and we work with the Transparency International, and also working with the Anti-Corruption Commission as well. So, and then during that process that we call the democratic transition, but it is not really the democratic even that time. And then during 2021, the attempt coup is happened by military, and our so-called democratic transition ended. So because of my involvement and my activities, my movement in the civil society, I need to move to the Thailand, and then I resettled. So my experience working with that on the civil society, we are the most the active and pushing for the more democratic and more transparency and more accountability. So we have major achievement during before the time coup. But after the time coup, we faced the very serious challenge, and because of the military tracings and the threat on the civil society, so there's no civil society space, almost no civil space inside.
Could you give a timeline when exactly was this democratic transition and when the coup happened? Because not everybody.
So for the context, we are in the very Myanmar is a very long under the more than 60 years under the military. But in 2010, 2011, we have the kind of golden time that the so-called democratic transition is happening. So our military is transformed to the how to say democratic, and then the 2015, the people elected by energy is that leading the government, they have a power. So we are really enjoying the democratic space in that time. But it is only 5 years, and in 2020, so it is after the energy landslide victory in the elections, and then 2021 February, so military has coup again, and we are in the very tough time, and we are going back to the last decades. So this is the Myanmar situation. So the military crackdown now is very, very serious, and the tortures, arrests, and even the banning, the banning in life is happening every day in Myanmar. So we have no secure space to work in and operating inside Myanmar. So we are relocating to Thailand, and we re-establish Peace House, and we are continue working on the issue that we are committed. And then I myself involved in the different campaign activity. Maybe very strategically that, as UN Special Reporter said to the public, that to turn down the military dictator, we need to work on the cutting off the financial flow to the hunter. We need to cut off the weapons flow to the hunter. We need to cut off legitimacy to the hunter. This is a three major strategy that is turning down the military dictator and making the democratic country better country for Myanmar. So I'm working for the cutting off the money flow to the hunter through the different campaigns, including the Prime Money campaign. And then I'm also the founding members that called the Defend Myanmar Democracy, that especially working on the legitimacy issue, that cutting legitimacy to the hunter. So during that time. At the same time, as Peace House, we still continue working with some transparency international group from Australia, the group with the Grand. At that time, he is working in the Portugal. So we continue looking over the extracted cabinet, especially that Mali resource, that they are diverse. They try to diverse from Myanmar in 2021. So we really worry about the local situation and workers, and they are irresponsible in the withdrawal from Myanmar can be harmed hugely. So we decided to complain the national counterpart in Australia, but the cabinet, Mali, they are not agree for mediation. So finally, the national counterpart from the Australia is the produce the final recommendation that is very strong and strongly criticized the cabinet. Even we cannot get a tangible result, but it is clearly showed that the cabinet who are working irresponsible way in Myanmar, they will be punished, or they will be criticized. So this is kind of alignment to the other cabinet. And I'm also working in 2031, Telenor is trying to withdraw from Myanmar. So I'm the one who is Telenor resource and organize people to complain to the Telenor withdrawal. That is, we are challenging the Telenor due diligence process and then our data, user data, falling into the wrong hand and using as a weapons to tracking down the people. So the case is still continuing. I cannot go detail because in the Norway we are still continuing the mediation process with the Telenor. So this is a different activity. We are as a civil society, we strongly involved in the both way that we are concurrent to those concurrent or the accountability, making the accountability to those international companies who are operating in Myanmar. At the same time, we are working on the campaigning and research for conquering or turning down the junta. That is continuing. That is generally I want to say.
Okay, so let me summarize. Like I said, you have three streams of work: the cutting junta of the money flows, right? Cutting of the legitimacy of the junta, and the third one was weapons, or no?
That one or weapons is not our expertise.
Okay.
Weapon will be the other group, but
Okay.
the third one is we are working for those keeping accountability of those international companies who are operating in Myanmar.
Yeah, and did you? I mean, international arena. Is that what you mean? I mean,
Yeah, in the international arenas, that kind of we're using the OECD and other type of the complaint mechanism to keeping the accountability. Yeah.
Okay, to summarize, can you summarize your successes which you had? Because you said that in some cases you didn't have any tangible results, but I think you had some successes and ASEAN, yeah?
Yeah, because of our campaign activity, that not only us, but because of the many international and local involvement, we are successfully, how to say, counter on the major company. That's just making the major money flow to the junta, like the total energy, and also the Chevron from US and Total from the Russia, the France, they withdraw from Myanmar, and then their announcement is very clear. They can no longer continue in Myanmar because of the human rights situations and the junta that, how to say, cracking down to the people. So even we cannot successfully stop the money, but politically, that we are very successful to stop the engagement with those international companies, the giants, white giants, and the junta. At the same time, we continue pressure on that. So EU have sanctions on the wine gas sector, especially MOGE, and also US government kind of partially sanctioned, especially in the finance, in the wine gas sector, is sanctioned by the US government. Those are the major successes.
Do you think without your activities, junta would have more money? Do you think it could have more money or not?
So, yes, that's a state of money flow together, but they are very difficult situations. So, if that kind of sanction, the junta cannot move their money, and their money flow will be seriously disrupted by those sanctions.
Yeah.
So that's just why we understand they are purchasing sort of weapons and jet fuels. That is major for the junta. It's very difficult now, but still continuing somehow, but it's become very difficult. So according to the UN Special Rapporteur report in the last few months, that the inflow from the Singapore to Myanmar is the seriously going down, like 80% cut off. Because of those reporting and movement. So we also involved in the campaign on the Singapore inflow to Myanmar. And so they intended to be zero in the coming year. So those are the, how to say, important movements that we are operating from Asia. And we are continue working on from the Asia. Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, we know that junta has right now tough times, so I think in any case that is a sort of, there is some impact, at least there is some impact from the activities of a Myanmar civil society. So I mean, it is making a real influence, some impact in this Myanmar. Do you agree, or?
Definitely, that, how to say, those are the activity, the people inside cannot make it anymore. So those people, the civil society inside, they are in the major threat. And the restrictions now, I think today there will be a report about the digital dictatorships. The Chinese scientist is creating the firewall, very sophisticated for firewall that tracking out everything in Myanmar. So that kind of situation inside. So those activities we are doing, like kind of campaigning and advocacy and research, and keeping accountability of those international companies, that cannot be, how to say, working inside Myanmar. At the same time, what we are working is this tangible impact on the hunter, and then also the revolution, the people movement for the democracy. So it's very clear.
Yeah, I mean, it gives some optimism. And by the way, I completely forgot to introduce you in the beginning, and I just want to say that, indeed, I think you mentioned that, but you were about to establish a Transparency International chapter in the Myanmar, and just before the coup happened, as I got it.
Yes, about to establish. We have MOU with the Transparency International Secretary to establish the Transparency International chapter in Myanmar. But because the coups happened, we are, how to say, now we are in Asia, and I will continue. This is the opportunity, and I can reconnect with the Transparency International and make it happen in the future, so better and collaboration in the future. Yeah.
Okay, and anyway, I think there is some bright future for Myanmar after all. Okay, so any short remarks or questions? First of all, I would ask our esteemed panelists if you have some remarks. No? Okay. Okay, please. Yeah.
I'm Alona Vandashaw from TI Russia, and I'm really curious, how do you work with youth? I guess it's really important to engage youngsters in anti-corruption efforts, and what is the main motivation for them to participate in such an aggressive environment?
Okay. Yeah, that's a question for you, I think.
So because of the campaign and our campaign movement and our educating the people, so everyone understands that cutting of money is the most important for our revolutions. So to frankly say that there's no money, there's no weapon, and there's no weapon, no people will be dying. So that is very clear logic. So that is why we are promoting and educating that cutting of money flow to the junta is the most important task we can do it. That is why around my experience during the revolution, last 3 years, the revolutions, so many young people. So I'm working with a very new generation, very young people, Generation Z, I'm working with. So they are very active and very committed and dedicated for working on those the anti-corruption and cutting off the anti-corruption mean that cutting off money flow to the junta. So it's very connected, those two. So the young people, they understand and they involve and they are committed and dedicated and continue that.
And by the way, if you are interested in how war and money and corruption are related, please come to another panel, which will be today at 5:30. Okay. Any other remarks? Yes, please.
Thank you. Nicholas Miller from ICNL.
Can you please? Oh, hold closer.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Nicholas Miller from ICNL. First, thank you for your work. I mean, obviously impactful and under very difficult circumstances. Moderator, I defer to you whether this is something we'll discuss later, but you've had to relocate out of the country. So I'm curious, what have been the impacts on your ability to do that work negatively as a result of being out of the country, in terms of legitimacy for the organization, access to resources, access to information about things happening in the country?
Yeah, the most of the negative impact we are in the Asia is that, so the supporter donor, they don't want to, how to say, support us because we are in the Asia. So, but at the same time, they understand that the work we are doing is that the people inside Myanmar, they cannot do anymore because there's no environment. So, whoever is working on it, they will die. They will be burned alive. So that's just a happening situation in Myanmar. So that's just why the main impact we have, we are continue working on the ESA. So the main impact is that the people sometimes it's very difficult to deal with that. Our main one of the main effort that taking time is that we explain why we are in ESA, why we need to continue this kind of work. So this is a how to say major impact.
Again, what is ISA?
Asia means
Asian, okay.
Asia.
Asian,
No, Asia means we are not in the Myanmar.
Exile. Oh,
Yes.
sorry.
Sorry about my pronunciation.
No, because it's hard to hear because of our panel. Okay, I think we can move on for now. And the next speaker I wanted to introduce is Emin Hüseynov. So Emin is the chairman of the Institute for Reporters' Freedom and Safety. It's a human rights defenders NGO from Azerbaijan, operates for more than 20 years. For his human rights activities, Emin's citizenship was revoked by the Aliyev regime, and he currently resides in Switzerland as a stateless person. So, Emin, like I said, your institute has been working for more than 20 years, and I think like for the last 10 years you have operated in exile, more than other speakers here. So you have the longest experience of operating in exile. And as I understand, your institute work more focused on human rights, but in recent years, anti-corruption issues has also come into into the scope of your work. So could you tell a little bit about that? Thanks.
Thank you, Jordi, and thanks for organizers to mention attentions for exile-based civil society community. I am Emin Hüseynov from Azerbaijan. I started work as like investigative journalist in 2001 and worked 5 years in the biggest like independent news agency, and I start with expose the grand corruption. First of all, I started to investigate like environmental situation around oil industry, insurance, state finance, and today we have a like mixed expertise in Azerbaijan because I'm started from beginning as like anti-corruption journalist, and when I understand so we need to organize some kind of journalist protection initiatives because most of journalists who investigate corruptions received lots of life threats, some of them murdered in Azerbaijan, and I established an NGO in 2006. And until 2014 we are successfully operated in Azerbaijan. But in 2014 we have like a, not the same coup like in Myanmar, violence coup organized by military junta. We have like constitutional coup. Most of the authoritarian federal states have same kind of coup when head of the states after 2 presidential term limit decide to change constitution up to his mind. And Aliyev changed constitution up to 2 presidential terms, and when we together with other election integrity organization expose these constitutional violations, they start to punish us. And I've spent 1 year in the Swiss embassy. Swiss government hired me in a small room. I'm staying like 1 year as like Julian Assange in the hiding, and after long negotiation, Swiss leadership able to get me out. They attend to the European Olympic Game opening ceremony with the Swiss Federal Foreign Minister and State Secretary, and part of the deal like attending to the international event which is boycotted by most European leaders. So since 2015 I'm living in exile. But let me tell you, all our problems, like which is we have before 2014, all of these problems like twice increase since when we moved to exile, because we have problems and challenges inside the country, and biggest challenges in exile to operate effectively. When, as like my Myanmar colleague said, I will try to be short. Like what I'm feeling for after 15 years of my strong fight against corruption, fight for freedom of expression, fight for human rights. I'm betrayed by my partners. And in exile, when I start to say that many people start, even from donor communities, say, why you want to continue this? It's too risky. You have relatives in Azerbaijan. Oh, it's so tricky to support you guys. It's also super expensive to support civil society in exile, etc., etc. Many challenges, and after 9 years, every year we have more and more, because imagine, when we are operating in Azerbaijan, I'm living in exile in Switzerland, and our organizational budget today, never in, 5 times smaller compared with our activities in Azerbaijan. In 2014, I can give you some numbers. In 2014, until we are closed in Azerbaijan, we have annual budget $500,000 per year, and we have 45 employees. Since we are living in exile, our budget never increased more than $150,000. I'm living in exile, and I'm continuing all my anti-corruption activities pro bono, just to make sure for everything what it's like a hobby of my life. That's what my family members saying for why? I mean, if you don't have even pension, when you will die, who's supposed to care about you? That's in this kind of situation, it's super difficult to continue. But we believe for still some people, some anti-corruption optimists or enthusiasts, continue to such kind of activities as they can, with limited human resources, with limited budget. During the 9 years since I live in exile, one of my colleagues murdered in Azerbaijan, one of my family murdered, my mom passed away under very strange condition in the hospital when the state health system not provide her health treatment. My deputy murdered, person who helped me to get successful escape. My brother jailed, he spent more than 2 years in prison for his anti-corruption activities. And now we are here again, and our biggest challenge today, we have lots of enemies. We have enemies in Azerbaijan, and we have enemies partners in crimes who continue to work with the Aliyev regime. I'm happy to see for you able to get some kind of results. You're able to demonize and unmask this junta regime. But in Azerbaijan's Aliyev, I just try to explain to you who is this guy. This guy is which has received power 21 years ago from his dad. Before this, 10 years, his father occupied presidential throne from 1993 until 2003. And we have, during our history, since Soviet Union collapsed, we have only 2 years democratically elected government. And this government also passed away because previous KGB junta,
I think Aliyev was head of Azerbaijan even in Soviet times.
Yeah,
It's like a noble king.
Imagine from 1969 until 1989, this guy, father of current president, take ruler positions in Azerbaijan and Soviet hierarchy. And from 1989 until 1992, when we have opportunities to get one in the history democratic elections, we have a democratic elected government. And since today, almost 31 years existence, we have a 34 years independent history since Soviet Union collapsed. And 31 years we're living under ruling for one petrol kleptocrats. They stole let's say, at least 60% of all our oil and gas export incomes. It's amount of this money more than $100 billion. It's like, imagine for the 30 years, the guys, like ruling family, they managed to steal every year from $3 to $5 billion. It's like a very easy to calculate. But how it's possible to fight with this machine? They already steal enough to cover their future activities. They start able successfully. They are much smarter compared with, let's say, with NGO community, because like fighting with corruption, it's super expensive activities. You need to hire like people with a special skills. And imagine today we have like only few of people. They're like literally by everyone in Azerbaijan. If they're not able to arrest you, they say, okay, arrest not working, torture not working. They start to bribe yourself. 75% of the civil society leaders, which is operated 10 years ago quite successfully, they betrayed all of their values, which is they defended. And today, it's difficult to find new faces, because for the last 10 years, when we operating in exile, we have like a situation which is maybe Belarusian civil society understand better. We have first wave of repressions in 2014, right after this peaceful constitutional coup, when most of us like decide to leave the country, and some new generation decide to stay inside the country and fight with these kleptocrats. There's generated a lots of new initiatives, like new anti-corruption measures, and all of them arrested right after Aliyev recently able to get this host country status for COP29. It's like the biggest climate change conference, which is Azerbaijan able to host since November 2023 in Dubai. And it's like the biggest political whitewashing event for Aliyev during all our independence. So when it's like 75,000 participants supposed to attend to the COP29 in Baku. It's 10 days event. It's like, let's say, to imagine like 20 times bigger than this international anti-corruption conference. When 150 head of the state already confirmed their participations, 15,000 journalists and civil society representatives, and 50,000 different stakeholders, like state parties, private sectors, and all of this happened in Azerbaijan, in country which is declared for the main topics for the COP29 supposed to be like fighting for transparency with climate finance. Imagine. And everyone who able to expose this corruption and lack of transparency, jailed. Like now we have like 30 journalists, 20 of them is like anti-corruption journalists, and 10 of them like
They closed down some websites in last December, I think. Right?
Yeah. Like it's like, let's say today we have like a 30 journalists.
Okay.
And 270 more other political prisoners, like 300 political prisoners. We always have political prisoners. It's like revolving door. They're arrested ahead elections, right after elections, but general number is always between like 75 and 100 people. Year ago we have 100 political prisoners. Today we have 300. And every week we have 1, 2, 3 prisoners.
Sorry to interrupt you, but you said about that you have issues with hiring new people, right? But what is about young people? Are they interested in working in NGOs and civil society?
They would love to work, but they didn't see any perspective. Most of the young activists who work with us, first of all, we are highly advise them to leave the country. Like, let's say we have planned to establish like backup offices in exile and operating in Azerbaijan with the freelancers. But most of the partners, like from donor communities, they decide to say, look, it's expensive to have a back offices like in Vilnius or in Geneva or in Brussels. It's cheaper to work with the people in Azerbaijan, cheaper but not safer and not sustainable. That is like a biggest mistake of our community, like-minded partners from like-minded states, they don't understand the risk. They say, oh, look, Aliyev is a member of the Council of Europe. And I said, look to the Putin also member of the Council of Europe.
Not right.
No,
Not
but
anymore.
until
Before, yeah.
he started the invasion, he also remember that even like right after invasion to Crimea, he still stayed on the as like a member from 2015 until 2022. But today we have same situation, and name of our event how not to be a grant eater. It's a grant eater when you have a lots of grant and you don't know how to waste these grants for something like usually. Okay, today what we have like grant eaters in Azerbaijan, like in situation when all civil society obliged, like independent civil society obliged to work in exile. Most of, let's say, 95% of all NGOs who work in Azerbaijan today, they are Gongos, or they NGOs who decide to compromise. They don't realize their main idea to be like a watchdogs. They just like get some money, and most of the donors also compromise with this. They say, look, we have a funding, we have to be inside the country, and donor community until the current situation, we don't understand. But today donor community start to understand that it's like 300 political prisoners, 30 investigative journalists in prison, no one inside the country, and they start to call us to say, guys, could you establish this initiative, anti-corruption initiative in exile, this initiative, this initiative? Yes, we can, but we need time. It's not magic. It's not like when you lost like people in Azerbaijan, you're able to. You need to prepare like some kind of incubators, like find like new people, prepare them, etc., and it gets more years. But we believe for now, it's no matter where you are, inside the country or in exile, with current realities, digitalization around the world, with global opportunities, it's possible to effectively operate in exile, and we just need to revise our activities. But we also do something wrong, because we believe we need to work only with our traditional donors, but in exile you need to find completely new donors. Not donors who work in Azerbaijan, not donors who are supposed to work with the civil society. It's lots of opportunities for NGOs in exile, and after 10 years, I have a new vision for what I should do for the next 10 years, how I need to operate, and I believe with all our lessons learned, we able to change something. But in our last point, what I would like to say, without money, when we start to feel big issues with lack of funding, we start to understand, look, most of the resources which is we have legitimacy to get them, it's stolen assets, which is Aliyev stole from the people.
Assets recovery, right?
Assets recovery. This is assets recovery, our strategical target for the next 10 years. We already started to do lots of stuff since 2018, and today is still already like 5 years, more than 5 years of our researches, advocacy efforts. We are a little bit close for our, let's say, finalizing our missions. Let's say, I would like to show you two just examples. One example with UK and one example with US. USA, it's like many of you maybe know the story with the Danske Bank, which is laundered $250 billion from Russia, Ukraine, and Azerbaijan. And since we have a lack of funding, I'm write letter to Danske Bank in 2018 and say, guys, you launder this money, shame you, you have to pay back this money. They said, we don't have money, money is gone already in the offshore zone. But they said, look, guys, you have profit, which is you reported, this profit you have to return back to the civil society. And I said, okay, give us time, we can figure it out with the law enforcement agencies in the US, in EU, and in Denmark, and also here in Estonia. which is they laundered this money by Estonian branch. And after 5 years, you know what's happened? Like Danske Bank paid $2.2 billion fine to US Treasury Department. They under peaceful settlement. And after this bank said, well, guys, money which has been promised, 250 million, these guys promised to pay to the civil society for anti-corruption activities and prevention of the future financial crimes. That is, this bank, after Shame and Blame campaign, published this press release. But they say, for guys, we are expected to pay $1.5 billion fine to US Treasury Department. Unfortunately, we paid them 700 million more, and we don't have any more money for you guys. That is, but the story is not finished. When we asked, like last year in Atlanta, US officials for guys, where is our money? Because US State Department, USAID, NAD, they don't give us money anymore. But we would like to get our money, for example, now you have this money, say for the Treasury Department, say for, look, we paid $200 million whistleblower award to IT department staff, member, guy from US who worked in Danske Bank and steals his data and delivered to OCCRP and Berlinski and other independent media. They say, for, we don't have this money. Money is already in the special account of Justice Department. Go and speak with them. I speak with the Justice Department Deputy Secretary, and they say, for yes, we have $2 billion, but we don't know what to do with this money. They say, look guys, this money which is you charge this bank, but could you give us some money? They say, well, no, you have to go with and speak with US Congress to do advocacy, and if Congress decides, okay, this money is eligible to get paid back to the civil society of Russia, Ukraine, and Azerbaijan, we're happy to do, but go and do this. But advocacy in Washington, D.C. is most expensive activity. You know how expensive it is. And the last case now in this UK also charged few Azerbaijani kleptocrats, which is we are investigate with our currently jailed colleagues in Azerbaijan, and with very unique opportunities is like to get this money as well, because already 4 cases, which is punished under these 4 cases, British court system and national crime agency punished them, and they suppose
It's unexplained wealth order?
yeah, it's an unexplained wealth order law when kleptocrats not able to explain how they, for example, one member of ruling family, he bought like 22 apartments in London, and the total amount of these apartments is more than 160 million pounds. Now they are confiscated. We have another case, presidents, cousins, and other people. More than £500 million assets now in UK. We managed to change the mind of the UK authorities and say, for guys, under unexplained wealth order, you have to return this money back to the country if they have the new legitimate democratic elected government. But the same kleptocrats in power in Azerbaijan don't return this money. They say, okay, we are not returning money. And now it's like 2 stakeholders who are fighting for this money. One of the stakeholders, it's like a UK National Crime Agency and Serious Fraud Office, because they always complain for we have a limited human resources, we need more budget money, which is understandable. And we also say, for guys, give us this money, we want to investigate these kleptocrats, punish them. Without resources, we can't do this. And now we are moving forward on these 2 directions. We are engaging with the UK officials, with US officials, still not big success. But in US, one of the lawyers, which I met with him recently in Paris, in anti-corruption and integrity forum, he told me, for men, but why you not fight again with the Treasury Department? They said, for what? Because, you know, under whistleblower award law in US, award for whistleblowers correlated between 10% up to 30%. You still able to find other people, like potential claimers. You have to make a claim and ask more 20%. I'm speaking with those CRP representatives, and tells them, "For guys, look, we are quite small exile-based NGOs. We are small fish. Like, if you want to be with us and fight for these assets, or anyone from Russian civil society, for example, Transparency International Russia, and I even speak about this with other partners from FBK, like with anti-corruption foundations. Here, I have a meeting with them last November, and I met with their representative recently. Still nothing concretely, but we believe if we're able to make a joint claim in US, because it's like still $2 billion, and I'm always asking like Ukrainian colleagues, guys, Yanukovych, which is also in charge with this Danske Bank case, still like more than $40 billion. Why you're not going and asking Americans and say, guys, give us money, because it's easy for you to get this assets back. And for me, again, with last opportunities for us, we also try to work with private companies, because private companies responsible for all this disaster in Azerbaijan as well, but still not big success, as we say, with Norwegian company. We ask try to ask Equinor, because we say, look, Equinor participated like partner in crime with a state oil company, and you are not transparent, you are help to Azerbaijan state oil company being richer and richer. But what about civil society? When you're speaking about values, like you say, we are no more Statoil, we are Equinor, or British Petroleum. They say, we are not more British Petroleum, we are beyond petroleum, or something like this. Like, when it's going to reality, these companies didn't do anything. And I believe for another potential sources of finance, we need to go and engage with these stakeholders and say, look, everyone's speaking about business responsibility and human rights. You have to help us. It's not when you do nice presentations for you have to care about the environment, etc. You have to care about situation in reality. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Min. Any short remarks or one short question, please? Yes?
Thank you very much. I've learned a lot from what you've said. I'm really shocked to hear that the COP is going to be held in Azerbaijan. I'm not a big fan of the UNFCCC anyway, with all those people, and I don't really know what happens there, other than seeing friends and networking. Can I ask you, is there anybody, are there any networks in the environment movement, in the climate movement, that is working to try and expose the ridiculous, I mean, it's just so wrong that this international meeting is going to be held there. So who are you working with, or are there networks? What can we do in the environment movement? Is there anything that you would like to request through our networks? Thank you.
Thank you. Will be very short. I just spent 10 days in SB60, its biggest pre-COP event in Bonn. 10 days event with 8,000 participants. We try to raise awareness, and tomorrow we are establishing a new campaign, Climate Observers Partnership for Green and Just Planet. And if you're addressing this website with the COP29.host, and we're calling for release our colleagues, we expose corruption and other problems in Azerbaijan, and all available materials will be there. We're happy to talk later, but let me tell you, after engagement during this SB60 in Bonn, I understand for 80% of the attendants don't understand realities what's going on in Azerbaijan. The Azerbaijan government do brilliant greenwashing, whitewashing activities, and it's a COP not only for Aliyev, it's COP also for Mr. Putin, which is not eligible to attend to COP 27 and 28. Both of them supposed to be some kind of king brothers during this COP 29 in Baku, and it's many things supposed to happen, and we're looking for more solidarity from international community. I thank you.
Okay, in any case, to sum up, I think that the most viable part of your work is probably the assets recovery, because Azerbaijan elite is really integrated into the West, and that's really the point where you can elaborate. I'm sorry, we don't really have time, so I would now like to move to Ilya Shumanov. Ilya is the CEO of Transparency International Russia. He has more than 15 years of experience in anti-corruption. His particular point of interest is the Russian kleptocrats and global kleptocracy. So, Ilya, TI Russia had some really hard times in the last 2 years, and I would like you to tell us about the experience of TI Russia evacuated from the country. It's the only TI chapter that managed to do that, and to continue its activities. So, could you please tell about this process, about how you managed to continue activities in exile, and your experience of NGO director in such tough times?
Yeah, good morning for everyone. I'll be more optimistic than my colleagues, I suppose, because I have a privilege to be the part of Transparency International family, and it's really a privilege because we have a lot of support from Transparency International, and it's one of the, let's say, key points of continuation of our activity, because we were the part and we are the part of Transparency International network. It's very complicated, but I can try to explain. From my personal point of view, I see the hundreds of non-profit organizations who actually continue their work or establishing their work from exile. But it's not that something these organizations put on the table when during the discussion with you, maybe, and sometimes you are not maybe could identify even this organization that they are working from exile, because they are just ordinary organizations that focus on specific things. For example, for the last maybe months, I had the opportunity to communicate with several of these organizations. They're in a more complicated situation than we are. You can imagine like organizations that working with North Korea, for example, and it's still possible to continue the work and to continue operation even inside country and to do something. For example, Citizen Lab, they are doing amazing work in the context of the North Korea. There are plenty of Central Asian organizations who are not able to establish entity inside Central Asia countries like Turkmenistan or Uzbekistan, for example, but they can do their monitoring, and I will try to explain how they're doing their activity inside these countries. For example, crude accountability organizations that focus on the Black Sea area and Black Sea countries and jurisdictions, as well as Central Asian countries. What about Transparency International Russia? We are one of the oldest non-profit organizations that focus on corruption in Russia. We were established in 1999, and it's more than 20 years experience of working in Russia, and Russia was not from 1999, the Putin came to power in Russia, and we established our organization there. It was no democracy at that time, But the situation became worse, and when I joined Transparency International in 2012, that time I was aware that the new legislation will be imposed, like foreign agent legislation, that now is, let's say, appeared in our colleagues in Georgia, and we see that the consequences of no reaction from the international community on this, let's say, foreign agent legislation in Russia at that time, because we are seeing plenty of consequences like Kyrgyzstan, like Kazakhstan, like Georgia, and many other countries, and even before 2014 in Ukraine, Yanukovych would like to impose the same legislation. It was the amazing example of, let's say, the similarity between these two regimes. We have started our activity and operation from exile in 2022, just after the start of the war, because we read legislation in Russian Federation. We understand that there is no way to continue this work, we can continue this work in Russia, but in a very small period of time. And the year after of the start of the full-scale war in Ukraine, our organization was officially banned in Russia because Transparency International was designated as undesirable organization. And every individual who works with Transparency International, not Russia, but international community, even our colleagues from other countries, they could be prosecuted in Russia because of the communication with undesirable organization. And of course, Russian colleagues could be prosecuted as well. We don't have such facts, we are lucky, yeah, but I suppose it's not about our success, but because of Russian authorities, they're trying to focus on specific areas like opposition movement, like other non-profit organization and media in Russia. Actually, I have, after my colleagues' discussion, I have several thoughts because we had an opportunity to work with colleagues in Myanmar and doing some trainings and share our experience, how to work jointly and how to share our experience to detect, for example, sanction avoiding mechanisms. Like we have both sanction regimes, Russia and Burma and Myanmar, yeah, and we are sharing our experience, how we can trace these illicit financial flows, how we can detect, how we can teach people, and we are sharing this experience. It's also one of the, not a silver bullet, but some sort of resolution of situation, how we can manage our things. And during my communication with the colleagues who are focusing on North Korea and some Central Asia, I understand that we are using the same things and same approaches. And mostly we are trying to continue our work within the country through the engagement of the people, but not with Transparency International brand, because many of the people are still interested in anti-corruption activity, and we have, let's say, 25% of our staff within Russia, and they continue their work inside the country, but not without Transparency International brand. It's also very important to know. And also we have to use advanced tools, advanced technical instruments to continue our work. It's a satellite images, it's big data, it's artificial intelligence, and it's all of these things. Yes, it's kind of the new oil for non-profits, new techniques for non-profits, and we can say that now we have plenty of digital services that we provide to Russian citizens that are not blocked in Russia, and we have more than 15 million views of our websites, not specific Transparency International, but other digital platforms that could be used by Russian ordinary citizens. In specific areas like procurements, like information about asset income of Russian public officials, and whistleblower protection platforms, and other things. Yeah, and I think that this technical advanced tools, it's kind of the possibility of continuation of the work within the country, even in this shrinking or shrinked space, yeah, actually. We have challenges, and that's some of these challenges have already appeared on this panel. It's a real problem with security of individuals who continue their work inside the country, because we have to stay relevant, even working from exile, to continue work with those who are inside the country, who is in the country. That's why the security and safety issues is kind of a big issue, and we're focusing on them, and we are not able to, let's say, to give opportunity our colleagues reveal themselves and say, yeah, we are working with Transparency International, because they will be jailed immediately. Yeah, and
that means you cannot use the full power of Transparency International brand.
Right.
Sometimes it even hurts. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean inside the country. But outside of the country, of course, we are using this Transparency brand, and thanks to our colleagues from Norway, for example, they did a lot. Thank you. Yeah. Because joint work with Transparency International chapters, it's a real opportunity to use your experience to provide some support to other in other parts of the world. For example, in Norway, I was invited to do a witness in a court case for during the criminal proceeding against Anders Bessenberg. It's the former head of International Biathlon Federation who received bribes in Russia from Russian authorities and Russian sport functionaries. And actually, this is a good example of success work jointly with Transparency International chapter in exile. The next challenge is the infiltration in human resources. Actually, infiltration is kind of the big problem for non-profits who are working in exile. I don't know about Myanmar and Azerbaijan, but I suppose the special services of Russian government, they try to seek opportunities to infiltrate in non-profit organization. And during the last year, we detect like 5 attempts to infiltrate in our organization during the vetting process of, let's say, hiring new people, and these people were directly connected to Russian authorities. It means that we are still let's say, in the support of Russian authorities, and that's also the problem, not only in a non-profit sector, but also in media and other organizations who work on the specific and sensitive things like anti-corruption, money laundering, human rights, and so on. And of course, human resources. It's very tough to find new specialists, as my colleague said, because let's say the base of your hiring groups, they are within your country, home country, yeah, but you're trying to find experts who could be self-motivated, who have the opportunity to continue this work, and who don't lose their motivation. And the motivation, it's also a very, very big thing we deal with, because during the remote work, and the big part of our work is remotely work, because our colleagues, they are spread all over the world, from California to Vladivostok. You know, it's a very, very big scope of geographic scope. Yeah, and but we learned a lot of lessons during the COVID times, and thanks to COVID times, I can say, because that time we managed to continue work remotely, and our work remote give us a chance to continue this work without any, let's say, gaps, because transformation of the work, it's like COVID, yeah? We have that experience, and we transfer this experience to our current work. And colleagues mentioned, very briefly and modest, mentioning about the financial issues. Yeah, of course, we see that work from exile is not only time-consuming and resource, but it's resource-consuming. You need to, let's say, to establish new entities and to try to work in a different jurisdiction, in several jurisdictions, like one jurisdiction, your home jurisdiction, there are some individuals inside country, your back office, your official office, and several websites, several VPNs, several servers outside country, inside country, and it's very expensive, yeah. But it's tough to explain to donors, sometimes to partners, that you need more resources for this, because like you, like ordinary organization, but for example, if you need to work in Myanmar or China or Azerbaijan, you need more, let's say, secure measures for your work, more, let's say, maybe some people were thinking that you have to pay additional for the risk. That's also the people who would like to join this, let's say, organization, they think that there is something risky, and they can go to the private sector to receive the same salaries, but they're going to non-profit organizations. That's why that thing is also on the table. And maybe the last thing, and this is the thing that my colleague Alena has mentioned, this work with the youth generation. And it's very complicated to continue this work remotely, because it's something you have to do in inspiring of this community to communicate with these people, and you couldn't do this work only in Zoom or only in Google Meets on other platforms, because you need to communicate to inspire these people like in your real life. And it's also a tough question, but we manage this, we are also managing this challenges because we try to establish the hybrid type of work. Sometimes they work in personal, in communication, and a big part of work they transfer to remote type of communication. Yeah. What can I say as, let's say, the final remarks? I can say that we need to be more adaptive because of this current situation, because we are the unique chapter of Transparency International now that could work from exile. But previously, we saw the several examples when Transparency International chapters would survive if there were such, let's say, protocols even in our big organization like Transparency International. For example, Transparency International Afghanistan, Transparency International Vietnam, that closed their chapters because they had to move from their, let's say, origin jurisdiction, but, let's say, cancel their work because they couldn't imagine that this could be managed to start new entity, continue work from exile. And I think that the example of Transparency International is a good example to show how the, let's say, protocols could be revised or, let's say, revised and install new protocols to continue work, or for example, even in this, let's say, very, very bureaucratic environment of Transparency International chapters and in this anti-corruption law. Yes, and thank you for your attention to this panel. It's a big privilege to talk about this and my personal, let's say, concerns on this audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Ilya. Before we go to Q&A, I would like to ask maybe a general question to all panelists. So, like, imagine that there is, for example, an NGO representative thinking about should they leave the country or stay in the country, try to stay in the country. What advice would you give if considering if should an NGO go into exile or try to continue to sit in the country till the last minute? So, any ideas? Okay, let's start with Emin.
I think anyone who works in strong authoritarian, kleptocratic regimes supposed to leave the country and not put himself under risk, because for investigating corruption, you don't need to be on the front line. We are living in the 21st century. When it's to operate, to fight effectively, people no more like fight with knives or with guns. They are fighting with the drones, with artificial intelligence tools. They are fighting, they have a satellites to expose problems. And we already fight enough, 20 years. Like if you have like a good expertise, you don't need to be murdered in your country. We have limited people, we don't need murdered heroes. Like that is like we don't have enough for these people. And one person in exile is sometimes able to destroy kleptocrats, like all kleptocracy regime. With one strong investigation, you're able to change millions of people's mind. But if you are in jail, you don't able to change anything. Some of my colleagues who are right now in prison, they're not able to repeat the same activities because they are in jail, and some of their exile-based foreign partners, let's say, they say we will continue to expose Aliyev's corruption. But I'm 100% sure and believe not any foreign journalist able to expose Aliyev better than Azerbaijani journalist, because we know everything about him. But what we need to be free. And it's, thank you.
Okay, any other opinion?
Yeah, I can say that my suggestion and my recommendation to this nonprofit will be to expand inside country networks to continue their work through, not directly, but maybe through intermediaries, through your partners who are still within the country. And this is something that we did, and I suppose that helps us a lot to continue this work even remotely.
For me, this is good questions, and one thing very clear and important is that to continue your work, you need to be alive. So this is just like very important. In my case, if you are taken for the interrogations or investigation, next day your family will be informed that taken by your dead body. So hundreds of cases, the still continue happening, is happening. So that's the point. Some people, some organizations that they really need to be supervised and to be moved to the to relocate for the safe space. So, but I think it's better to think about the hybrid model. So some will be the outside, some will be the inside. That's secretly operate. So that's also the affected working. But it doesn't mean that the people outside is not affected. That's some activity that we are doing is it's only possible in the market. It's only possible to do that kind of activity when you are outside. You cannot do anything inside. So, but in my hometown, the fact is not only you, but also your family. So your family will be covered. And then also your colleagues and everything, they will be, that's fine. So, so that's why the case by case, that if you still have, a country still have some sort of the democratic structures, for example, if you still remain the strong and valid judiciary system, you can still operate and challenge from the within the system. But country like Myanmar, everything that's strong, I think the first thing you have to think that you are surprised and you are alive to continue this work. Yeah.
I think there's a lot of common in what all of you said, so I think that's good. Okay, now time for questions, please. Any questions? Yes, please.
Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you so much. My name is Tara. I work for the USAID mission in the Kyrgyz Republic. So, as you pointed out, there was just a passage of a foreign agents law. So, my question to all of you is, the presidential administration in Kyrgyzstan demonizes civil society by calling them grant eaters, and this is a very effective narrative for the administration. So, what do you do to counter this narrative that of grant eater? Thank you.
By the way, when we were designing this session, we got an idea that grant eater means not the one who is like taking Western grants and betraying his country, but more an NGO which is spending ineffectively money, you know, just for the sake of doing NGO job. Okay, Ilya?
Yeah, I suppose that our experience is quite similar to Kyrgyzstan. Yeah, I don't have, let's say, silver bullet to this answer, to this question, but I think that working with community and trying to explain your role in this work, and that you are not only doing some, let's say, policy papers, doing some researches, but trying to provide and to explain the benefits for community, for your audience of your work. Like you're trying to asset recovery, for example, for your country, or you're trying to explain the suffering of the people and decreasing suffering of the people. Like in Myanmar, for example, you can say that, okay, the legitimacy of the junta or decreasing number of weapons that could be used against the ordinary citizens is also the thing. And I suppose that explanation of your role, explanation of your contribution to these people could be the main explanation. You can let's say, fight with a narrative. I suppose if you have social media presence, strong social media presence, and also some sort of, let's say, your public appearance, like a non-profit, like Media in Exile, for example, you can also communicate directly with your audience, not through some intermediaries, not through some narratives. And for example, my colleagues in Georgia, they now facing with this challenge, because government from year to year trying to, let's say, push them and trying to organize smearing campaigns against them. And I think that they also doing a lot of let's say, manipulation, maybe media manipulation work, and they don't repeat, for example, the same narratives that government tried to say. This is a foreign legislation. They say, no, this is anti-Russian legislation. This is some sort of betraying of the country. No, we are working with the international community. And this is something that could be, let's say, introduced through specific PR campaigns. Yeah, that's my point, my understanding.
Yeah, I wanted to add that in Russia, for example, it was really gradual, the foreign agents law, and it was really gradually implemented. And many NGOs, they refused to take foreign grants, and instead they became fundraising, talking to people. And there were a lot of NGOs in Russia who successfully fundraised money. So they even had to change the foreign agents law, because initially it was about foreign money, and then many NGOs stopped receiving foreign money. They just changed it to foreign influence. That means if you repost or any foreign news, that means you are under foreign influence. You don't need even to receive money. And that just shows that, but I mean, in many countries I saw that NGOs, they don't even understand how to talk with people, because they're completely dependent on grants, and they don't understand how to fundraise. And of course, these NGOs in exile, it becomes even more tough for them, because they don't know how to work with diaspora, because many countries have diaspora, and they could fundraise money from diaspora, but they just don't know how to do it, and it's a hard learning for them. Okay, I think that was a question, yeah, please.
That's also a question.
Yeah, next. Okay.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, but this is really not just a question. I would say it's a complement to your question. I'm from Kyrgyzstan. I'm an exiled HRD, a lawyer, a Kyrgyz lawyer, and we operate out of Austria currently. The name of the NGO is Freedom for Eurasia. So we are aware of this law that has been implemented in Kyrgyzstan, and we understand the difficulties that our colleagues inside the country face. What we feel would be important is for us, and for those who are now going through difficulties of new reality, is to have more validation on what Emin has also mentioned, to have and develop new forms of support, perhaps. And there are many opportunities. It's also important to keep in mind new ways to influence the authorities, because these regimes that are sitting in Central Asia, they are dictatorial, bandit regimes. And this is something that we are trying to explain to the international community. And this is something that the international community understands, but is not doing anything, well, very little about. We've been trying to submit several people out of Central Asia for example, sanctions. But there seems to be very little appetite to take action against them. We only have so far 3 people sanctioned out of Central Asia, for the last several years. And we're still kind of, chewing on the case of Gunnar Karimov. That's now, 10 years old, I think. So taking action against the regime is very important. Showing the regime with these actions very clearly that the international community is not okay with their decisions, is not okay with labeling the civil society in this way. not being afraid to actually go after the perpetrators, and not just after the low-hanging fruit, such as the people that fell out of favor, like Gulnara Karimova, or the banker from Azerbaijan in the UK who also fell out of favor, so he was an easy target, right, for the international community. But for someone who actually made this decision, to have this law for this law to come into force, so the people who are actually behind these actions, behind the actions going after the journalists in Kyrgyzstan, for example, because there is plenty. There's plenty of people that are not holding political positions who might actually be a very good example for visa bans. Also, again, with a visa ban, there is a question, we never know who is banned. This is not publicly available information. And naming and shaming is very important for advocacy, is very important for all of us. And for the people, for the societies to see that these people eventually will be punished. So my point is, there is just not enough action that is visible against the perpetrators. And there is not enough support for the civil society that is inside the country and that is outside of the country.
Any comments on that?
Yeah, it's absolutely true, but I suppose that it's all about money. Sorry for this, let's say, message here, but if we're talking about Kyrgyzstan, there's still plenty of international companies and foreign companies cooperating within the country. And this is a type of, let's say, legitimacy. And it's like United States company, European company continue their work inside the country. And I think that's a pillar of the legitimacy of the regime. And you could not impose new sanctions on the country when your company is operating inside within this country. That's the main point. Maybe Russia is a good example, or even Myanmar is a good example, where some international companies, during the third year of the war, they're still within the country and continue its work within the country. It's about the legitimacy and legitimacy based on money, international money that still can go to the country and out of the country. That's maybe the point, but your point is also brilliant. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Yes, please.
Thank you so much. My name is Ji Lee. I'm from Citizens Alliance for Rescuing Human Rights. So first of all, thank you all for being here today, and I'm really glad that we are all arrived here so that we can share this talk. So I have a question to Mr. Emin Hüseynov.
Yes,
Yeah.
no.
So the thing is that in South Korea and Japan, there are quite many victims who are the victims of the human rights violations from the North Korean government, and they want the civil legal suitcase for the compensation. But the thing is that it was really difficult for them to track down the assets for the North Korean government. So they have difficult time to collect the money even though they won the case. So your work about the asset recovery was really interesting, and I'd like to know how it was possible for you to track down all those information through the bank, and also you mentioned that you could also track down the Regent Biden's officers' asset in UK, right? I think that it must have been really tough. So could you share some of the tips how that was possible? And I also have another question to Mr. Lee. So I also believe that cutting down the money flow into the junta and dictatorship is very essential to do our work. So I was wondering whether you could identify some of the aiders and abettors who allow the regime to collect the money continuously, And then like, was there any kind of method to hold them accountable? Like that it would be really like helpful for us to learn that. And I have another question for the moderator too. So, like, you know, many NGOs, I'm wondering whether you could share some of the tips for the, like, civil society organizations who don't know how to multiply or diversify their fund sources around the world. So I'm wondering whether you could share some of the tips how to do that. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Since we have 3 minutes left, yeah?
I think we'll spend some 5 minutes more because it's not like that.
So, related with individual cases, we mentioned Japan and South Korea, but we exchange with experience with our Iranian and Venezuelan colleagues in US. They also use the same tactics. They apply to the US-based courts and charge regimes. Like, for example, if you have family members who pass away under torture in Iran or Venezuela, you're able to provide direct or indirect proof where you are connected and you damaged, and they must pay you for your loss. It's one of the ways. That's like one of the recommendations from US lawyers, which is say, you have 2 ways. If you want money for yourself, you can easily go to US court, show connection with the case, identify the assets of Azerbaijan in US and say, well, they have to pay this amount because they damaged you and your family. That is quite easy. It takes from 2 to 5 years. I don't have this time, I'm looking for the simple solutions. That's why I prefer to going and like kindly blaming this private bank, say, guys, you get the money, you launder this money. Could you possibly give this money back to the civil society? We can help to you and to all stakeholders to prevent such kind of crimes in the future, and your conscience will be clear for the future. But that's kind of solutions where if any individual cases from case to case is different. But sometimes what I'm upset, I've spent like 8 years to punish a leave in the European Court for Human Rights for returning my citizenship. And the European Court for Human Rights make a decision for yes, this is unlegitimate, the citizenship must return back to me, and government must pay back 4,500 euros. If I go to US or to UK court, I'm sure for this like financial damage costs can be not 4,500, but will be like 1 or 2 million euros. But I prefer to do precedent for the future, for no one, for example, in the Council of Europe member state not able to use illegal power to deprive outspoken voices from their own citizenship. In the future, I need to spend like a few more years to punish them in the other courts, but still, thanks for your recommendation. We're happy to exchange after our plans.
So thank you for question. So yes, the money is the most important to survive. That's the dictator, especially in Myanmar. So since my time in the Mata, now is DESOL, Myanmar Alliance for Transparency and Accountability. So I'm working on the data from the extractive industry, here called the EITI. We know which source of money is the biggest foreign currencies reserve for the government. So the major source, like more than 60%, not maybe 80-90%, is coming from the wine gas. So that is why we focus that money from the wine gas to cut off to the junta. But as they continue to say now, so now the only remaining entities that we are struggling is the PTT, the state-owned company from Thailand, Thai state-owned company. They continue paying the money to the junta. So this is the most important task for us right now. So yes, Thailand, they don't care about what we are calling, what we are saying. But at the same time, we are very much careful with the time, dealing with the timing, because the whole majority of the revolution is relying on the timeline. So that's just why we have to think the strategically how to move our work. So the one major thing is that the very simple thing. So when your interest is impact, for example, like company, my interest is impact. So I have to think about that, what to do it. So that's just why we are thinking about the interest of the PTT and the investor of the PTT from the other country, like, you know, the Norwegian sovereign wealth fund is withdrawn from the PTT because of this issue, because they are continue paying for that. And then the other company are also the same. So we need to keep working on it. So it's called the boomerang effect. When you cannot go directly, you have to go to the others that can be impacted to them. So that kind of indirect way, you have to think about that. We are trying the different way and several ways that is how to say strategically pressures on the PTT and others. Thank you.
Okay, I'm no expert in financing NGO, but I can say if you're helping people, the donations fundraising, it may work very well. It's quite hard sometimes to fundraise money for anti-corruption if you're doing only policy papers, because in Russia, Navalny fundraised money not only because of investigations, but because he was a politician and he pursued political aim to change Russia. So maybe think about that, about if you are helping people try to fundraise money among the diaspora, that's one of the ways I see. Okay, we have time for one question, I think. Any question? Yes, please, let's do the last one.
So it's a very tricky situation. When you work in exile, you should be silent. At the same time, our aim is to increase transparency. And my question is how to find a balance. And I will give a short example. We are in Tbilisi right now, and the law on foreign agents adopted, and that means we should disclose some information about our projects. And it means Russian government, for instance, will check our activity and will see this connection between our activity in Russia and this Georgian NGO. So it's a very tricky question, I know, but maybe we will provide you opinion related to this complicated issue. How to find
Any opinion? Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think we need to be transparent as much as possible. If you fight with the kleptocrats, at least transparency fighters, it's my opinion, because Azerbaijani government arrested many our colleagues in Azerbaijan, and I told them, guys, you have to leave, because the condition which is received money, let's say for donors give you like a prepaid card, and you go withdraw money from the ATM, and everything is recorded. Like they're able to punish. Now the government use the charges with money laundering. The Russia prepared by FAT recommendation against money laundering, how the NGOs supposed to be controlled. And these regulations using by Azerbaijani government against all of us. And we told them still, it's like risk assessment. As more you're transparent, let's say if you live in exile, first of all, my advice, you have to leave Georgia, because Georgia no more secure for you guys, for Russian civil society activists. You have to transfer yourself to European jurisdictions in Brussels and somewhere. And if you publish your, let's say, information, I think it's less risk. Yeah, if you say know how much is your salary or how much, it's no problem. Like we need to be transparent, and if people know so we are transparent even under this difficult condition, we will receive support. But again, we're only able to hide this like salaries, do not show them publicly for our freelancers who work inside the country. Like this is only eligible. But again, in jurisdiction and exile, you have to find more secure jurisdiction, because now government try to punish us also in exile from different jurisdictions, different many other difficulties. Thank you.
Yeah, but I'm really sorry, I need to clarify. It's not about salary. It's about I commit crime. Everything, according to Russian legislation.
That's about that.
If you live in Georgia, let's say, or if you're working in Switzerland, I'm working in Switzerland, and if I'm established, let's say, Transparency International Azerbaijan chapter in exile, the law which is like adopted in Azerbaijan, first, is an anti-constitutional law, for example, for me, or under the European Convention for Human Rights, it's not eligible for member of Council of Europe. But if you live in exile and you operated with a legal entity who registered in Georgia, in other, you have to be transparent according to this country-based, exile-based country law. That is my...
Legally it's true. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much for coming. I think it was quite insightful session, and we are open to questions afterwards. Thank you very much, and see you around.